Hello class 9. In this video or coming videos, I will discuss or rediscuss or re-explain to you some important aspects related to lesson 1 history from the French Revolution. You know very well that this particular the French Revolution is started with a very important introduction. This introduction is related with the demolition of or with the destruction of the Bastille prison or the Bastille jail. Actually, the Bastille prison or the Bastille jail was destroyed in or on which date? 14 July 1789. 1789 14 July 1789 was the date when the Bastille jail was destroyed, and this particular date is also observed as the outbreak of or the starting of the French Revolution. But here the question is that why or what was the reason for the destruction of the Bastille jail? It is the question which is very important to seek or to search the answer of this question. You may see that there was a rumor that King Louis XVI had ordered the army to open fire on the common people of France. This rumor was spread in the city of Paris, not only the city of Paris but also in the interior places of France. It started a type of anarchy. It started a type of problem, and when this particular rumor was spread in France, then what happened? Near about 7,000 men and women from the common people, they gathered themselves and they formed what? People's militia. It was a type of army which was formed by the men and women of France. They marched towards the Bastille jail and they demolished or destructed what? The Bastille prison. Actually, this Bastille prison was a symbol of the autocratic rule of King Louis XVI of France. When it was happened, when on 14 July 1789, when it was happened, at that time it was not accepted and it was not expected. Means why and how did this happen? That is why when we start to ask answer of this question why and how did this happen, then we start or when we start to discuss about the French Revolution, and that is why this particular introduction is related with the conclusion of the French Revolution, and this particular introduction will give path or will give what way to start the history of French Revolution. Now see, the first chapter of the French Revolution is related with the French society during the late 18th century. My dear student, you know very well that King Louis XVI, who was the King of France, and he became the King of France, and when he ascended the throne or became the King of France, at that time he found an empty treasure. Means at that time the France was running with the economic crisis or problem. And one more thing was that the King Louis XVI was related with the Bourbon family. Means the King Louis XVI, who became the King of France, was related with the which family? The Bourbon family. But there was a problem. Problem was that when he ascended the throne or when he became the King of France, at that time he found the empty treasure or an empty treasury of France. At that time the France was running with the economic crisis. What was the reason behind that? Actually, before ascended the throne, France was busy in war. France had the 13 colonies of Britain, and that is why a big amount of money was spent in such causes, and that is why when King Louis XVI became the king of France or the ruler of France at that time, he found the empty treasury. But you know very well, there was a big court, there was a big army to pay them salary. Now it was decided that the King Louis XVI will increase or will impose taxes on the people, and that is why the state was forced to increase taxes. Taxes was imposed on the people. To understand about this particular line, the state was forced to increase taxes. My dear student, you know very well, when the tax will impose, this particular tax should be imposed on each and everyone, but it was not happened in France. Actually, to understand about this line, it is very essential to know that why was this happened. Actually, the at that time, the France or in the France or the French society was divided into three states. The first state was observed as clergy, the second was nobility, and the third were related with the commons. The clergy were related with the people of church, or they were the religious people, and the nobility were observed as the officials of the France. They were the privileged classes. Privileged classes means they were very powerful, having lots of facilities given by the state of France. And the third very important state was observed as the commons. The commons were in majority, and but they were observed as unprivileged class. Unprivileged class, they were doing lots of work for the France, but no facility was given to the commons. As I have written on this particular whiteboard, you can see they were in majority, but the clergy and nobility were in minority. After then, the commons, only the commons were forced to pay the taxes which were imposed, and the clergy and nobility were free to pay any taxes. It was the reason you may see here the commons were in majority. The commons were bore the burden of all taxes, and there was no political right, means the commons were not able to cast their vote, and the social status of commons was also very weak, and the clergy and nobility were the privileged classes with lots of facilities and without any taxes. They were free to pay any taxes. So if you will find and if you will see the condition of the French society, you will find it was the dividation of the French society where the clergy and nobility, those who were in minority, they were privileged classes, and the commons, those who were in majority, they were the unprivileged classes without any political right and weak social status. It was the main reason for the what? For the French Revolution. As I have told to you that the commons were getting lots of problem. The commons were without any political right and social status. When they got chance at that time, the commons were corrected themselves, and that is why they demolished the Bastille jail. So here, if we are going to discuss, or if we are discussing about the important aspects of the French Revolution, it is very essential that the French society was divided into three states, and in these three states the commons were not free, or the commons were paying all the taxes, but the clergy and nobility were free from any taxes. Now you may see, as I have told to you, when the King Louis XVI found the empty treasury, he decided to impose taxes, and this particular taxes was only and only will be given by the commons. But one more thing was that here I will discuss to you two type of taxes, tithe and tithe. Tithe was the tax which was imposed by the clergy. Clergy means it was a type of religious tax which was imposed by the clergy. Means the clergy were very powerful at that time. They can impose tax on the people. And the tithe was a type of direct tax. Tithe was a type of direct tax, and it was imposed by the government or by the state on commons. Means the tax, tithe or tithe, both were imposed only and only on the commons. Here I am discussing about the problem of the French society. My dear student, you know very well at that time the one more problem which I will discuss with you. At that time the population of France was increasing, and according to population the production of agricultural crop or the food should also increase. But the population of France was increasing, but the production was low, and the wages of the common was also very low. It brought a type of food crisis, and it made the condition of commons very poor. And that is why we find, when we discuss about the condition of the French society, we find that the commons were in weak section. They were unable to get political right and good social status, and all the burden of paying tax was on their shoulder. And that is why it was the reason, and it was a type of discriminative division of or discriminative classification of French society, and it brought a type of anger among the commons. That is why the Bastille jail or Bastille prison was demolished or destroyed by them. It is my first video related to or to rediscuss about the French Revolution, the important aspects of the French Revolution. I hope you understood this video, and I will send question answer related to this video to you. Thank you very much.